let's jump into this, the risks and dangers of AI. So we have Mark, who was here last night. Most of you were, I don't make you raise your hands again, but who enjoyed what Mark had to say about the future? Pretty crazy, pretty wild. I in no way endorse opinions of my panelists. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. You're here because I invited you, obviously. But we're going to go there. There's no limits to this panel. We're going to talk about the risks, the dangers, how this affects jobs, the future, the economy, life as we know it. And I love that Mark is wearing shades. But, you know, the joke is that the future is so bright, we actually need shades. So that is where I think we can end, because of what's coming could actually be such a good thing. And we're all laughing. This is actually true. So I'll start with you, Owen, which, by the way, it was awesome to have you here as well last night. What are some risks and dangers that you see?
When we talk about the risks and dangers of AI, I think that we've got a macro level. Okay, this macro level is drones that could shoot you. That's like this macro level of terrifying AI. And we're probably going to hear some of that today, and I think that those are valid. I also see more of a micro danger and threat that comes to us as operators and as agency owners or professionals. And on a top level, I think that you've got a concern about investing too much time in the wrong things. We are in the beginning stages. The softwares that we're talking about today may not exist in a year, in 2 years. And so we have to be judicious in what we're investing our time into and why, so that we don't wake up in 2 years where we put our cart on the wrong horse. And I think that that's an initial, as all of you guys are hearing about this technology is, I mean, last night I heard, oh, try this and voice text. And I'm thinking, how do I maintain the revenue, the brand, and all the growth in my company if I've got to be examining and auditioning which softwares we're going to let in? So I think there's a judicious side where we have to like really put it on the table and say, what am I going to dive into for the next quarter and stay focused on that? Otherwise, you know, I think that you could find that you lost a lot during the AI boom. So I'd watch out for that.
Well said. And we should have, is there a mic in your seat, Chris? Okay, perfect. Well, is it on? Green light?
Testing.
There we go. Awesome. Move over to you, Chris. Now, I want to give a little backstory. Chris is the CEO of Direction.com, and he's actually implemented this thing I helped invent called AIO, where it's humanly edited AI content, and he's selling it to clients. And he actually, when he went to his clients, there's an awesome story here. Nobody said no to you. In fact, they were like, Chris, we were wondering when you were going to adapt. Well, they didn't say that. But they were like, when were you going to use AI? We know it's better and faster than these slow writers. So you have an amazing story there about how your whole SEO company is tapping into the power of AI. You're selling it successfully. Not much resistance in the industry. So talk about this. What do you do, and how did you adapt to AI?
Yeah, so just like Julia was saying, we were using a content writing agency and spending, upwards of $20,000 a month. And content was a big pain in our butt. Clients were upset constantly. They were asking for revisions constantly.
This was my life for 10 years. I sold to people like you.
Yeah. Anyway, so I started playing around with ChatGPT, and even before that, there was a few other tools that were AI. They weren't that great, but once I figured out a way to really use AI to write content through proper prompting, I just talked to the team, and I was like, hey, we've got all these issues with content, and clients aren't happy with some of it, and let's see what happens if we do AI, and if we just use that. Number one, and what I told our project manager is I said, hey, man, you told me you wanted to make X amount by the end of this year. This was almost 2 years ago. And he goes, yeah. I was like, all right, well, here we go. Because if you can save me $20,000 a month, I'll put it in your paycheck.
Whoa,
so guess what he did?
That's awesome. Is he here? Is that the guy?
He's not here, unfortunately.
That's not the guy.
Jarrett, no, he's actually on vacation right now. But Yeah, so we started talking. What we did first was we started writing AI content and showing it to clients and having them approve it. And they were like, "Wow, did you get a new writer?" And we were like, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah." So then we started talking to clients and saying, "Hey, how about if we just used AI?" And the response was overwhelmingly like, "Oh, please. Like, I'm sick of having to wait 4 weeks for one piece of content. Like, is it going to be faster?" Yeah, okay. It's going to be faster for a multitude of reasons. Number one, especially with content at scale now, which has been awesome since we implemented that, it creates the basics of a piece of content, and from there, we can go in, use an AIO writer, get it optimized, all within a few hours. This is huge, especially as things progress and there's anything trending in any industry. Our clients can be like, "Hey, we want to get an article out about this." Well, guess what? We can sell, and they're also willing to pay more.
What?
Because of the speed.
That's
so we're saying,
insane.
"Hey, look,
Did
if
you
you
guys
want
hear
to..."
that? Willing to pay more, and AI did most of the work.
Yeah, and it's been amazing since we switched to fully using AI. We call it, here at Direction.com, we call it human-powered AI content.
Yes, you do.
And because
I've
that's what it
endorsed
is.
that tagline. So this is risks and dangers of AI, but I love how Chris
Risks.
brings the bright perspective. There's no danger here.
I can get into the risks and
Let's
dangers.
do it.
All
Let's
right.
go there.
Well, there's probably a big elephant in the room that everybody has heard about, with Google being, saying George Washington is historically inaccurate.
Ooh.
And, that can be a serious risk. And if Google decides, AI decides, "Hey, I'm going to rewrite your history," that's a problem, right? And think about it this way. Hopefully we learn from our mistakes and we learn from history, and we look back and we say, "Okay, look, that did not work." Well, if years go by and AI continues to push something that isn't true about any historical, say a war that was lost, and somehow AI saying, "No, it was won," or, "Hey, this is why this war failed," or "why this war didn't fail," it could start changing the way that we operate in the future. Because if we're learning based off of our history, and our history is inaccurate, we're going to continue to have issues. So that's one big thing. The other is something that Owen brought up with focus. There are so many tools out there right now and so much going on, and AI is advancing so rapidly. And we already have a very short attention span on social media, a blog post, whatever it is. People don't spend much time. They try to find the answer as fast as they can. And guess what? Focus is, I would call it, it has more value to it than money itself. Because if you can focus on something and give it your full attention, that is going to grow. It's going to help you. You're going to excel. If you allow, in terms of dangers, if you allow every single tool to distract you from what you're doing, or you're trying to test 100 different things, pay someone to do that.
Anything you want to add, Owen? I see you.
Yeah, thank you. On what you're saying, like, let's say that you've hitched your wagon to Google. You use Google Drive, you use Google Docs, and they start implementing all this AI. And all of a sudden, George Washington was from Scandinavia. Or that medicinal lotion that you sell $1 million a year is fake science. The WHO, the WHO would never approve this. So now your whole infrastructure, you have to either operate in that infrastructure where you're an enemy, but you're forced on the software because you're Google across the board. So I think that it goes along with focus. Now you're spending all of this time like reevaluating what tool suite you're going to use. That could be majorly disruptive to every person's business here. And so I think paying attention to that. What was the Google thing that launched? What was its name? Gemini. That was a big wake-up call to anyone, I think, dealing in health and wellness, in the medical sciences. Like this, I don't know how many history teachers are here, but I get on a micro level, I think that's a real problem that we have to look at is what is the tool of suites that we can grow with in the future.
Yeah, and I want to say, Google, in terms of danger, I mean, they lost, what was it, $9 billion or something like that. That's a big loss. So AI can definitely cause some issues financially if it's utilized incorrectly, as we saw with Google.
Hey, buy Google. Takeaway. It's interesting, like that almost brings a bright side into perspective where for the first time I feel like we can see what these big corporations are actually doing to manipulate, right? Because we saw it in the actual output. We were like, whoa, there's clear bias here and the output is showing it.
Even if it's our bias, how does it affect your company's objectives, right? We do a lot of work in health and wellness, and there's only so far you can go before you're in the Google atmosphere, right? So we're reporting on the NAC ban. NAC is a supplement. We did some videos on it. We got tens of thousands of views on these videos. But then all of a sudden the videos stopped surfacing, right? So that's disruptive to us. And it's not based on, it was like, hey, this is too sensitive. We were able to negotiate, get into a different contact topic, and the doctor's doing just fine. But what if you're cornered and you're in an interface? I've said it, that you just can't do anything. It's something that I think about a lot. Is like, will this software still serve us in a year?
Yeah, and that being said, be careful on yearly subscriptions with AI services because that can also bite you. So, if you sign up for something where, 12 months and you say you get 2 months free if you sign up for 12 months, well, guess what? A week later, something could come out that's drastically better than what you just spent thousands of dollars on. So be careful. I'm always a fan of having more cash in the bank and doing month to month. Primarily, as a business owner, even though it can save you money to do pay for the year up front, and, you get 2 months free or whatever the catch is. Having more cash flow in the bank is always good, but on top of that, I'm able to pivot quickly. If there's a new tool out, I can cancel my subscription because guess what? I'm on month to month, and I did not spend 10, 20 grand for the year to try to save $2,000 because ultimately it's going to cost me a lot more.
But you haven't canceled Consonant Scale.
No, I'm on month to month with Content Scale, but I plan on being for years.
Just checking. So, Mark, over to you. Let's go into the dangers of AI.
I'm not going to go too crazy.
Well, you can. Listen,
Please do.
There are people here that asked
Let's
me,
go.
do we have limits? I said no, and they cheered.
Okay. All right. So the biggest
Open
danger
floor.
right now is information corruption and just too much information. Because what you have is the ability for anybody to create any amount of content they want. And what will happen is that everybody will do that. If you could do an article a day or 20 articles a day or 1,000 articles a day, we're going to inundate the entire system with so much bad content that's been poorly ran by AI that it's going to consume all of our attention and distract us from the actual information that's good. Now, the way you avoid this, if you have a company and you do want to create content, which all of you should be worried about creating databases of your own unique content, is that uniqueness. If we all have the same information, we all have the same answers, essentially, why should somebody come to you instead of going to Google or going to some other AI or anybody else's AI? Why would they come to you? They come to you because you have a specific voice, you have a specific style, you have a specific bias, if you want to call it that leans the information towards wherever direction that they enjoy looking at. And so the danger here is that if you just think that AI is just going to create all the content for you and you don't have to make it special, you're wrong, because everybody can do that. And generative AI, like I said with Google specifically, why would they send you traffic? They have the answer. Why wouldn't they just generate the answer for you? And since they have all your data, they could do a much better job than anybody else because they'll know your preferences and the fact that you might like video more than articles, and you might like specific types of content more than other types of content. You have to basically start to internalize your network and say, hey, you're coming to me for my information. I don't share it anywhere else on the planet except for my platform, and so if you want it, you got to come here. And if you're not focused on that and you're still spreading content throughout the ecosystem, which you still have to do. I'm not saying don't do that because the system we're currently in requires that. But you do need to start leaning towards privatizing your information, collecting your community, privatizing your community, and owning everything. Because if you don't own it, then it's owned by everybody. And guess what? Google's going to take it, OpenAI's going to take it, and everybody's going to take it and use it and make money from it. And what the benefit you get is some traffic, maybe, but probably not, because they're not going to link you.
So I want to piggyback off that for a second. So with ChatGPT, if you're paying for the business plan, I believe it's $30 a user per month, they actually do not train on your information. So that is one way to protect your privacy, your data, and really create that unique brand, tone of voice, or anything like that, and it's not being used for other people or for any other reason. That's why
you still publish it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, also you can actually, when we do this with a lot of sites, you can put blockers so that different AI bots cannot crawl your website and they cannot crawl your content, which means they cannot train off it and write something extremely similar.
Well, my only issue with that is that even, especially with paid ad traffic, like what percentage of paid ad traffic is bots? Like, can you tell the difference? Can any organization tell the difference between AI or bot traffic and human traffic? The answer is no. Nobody has an algorithm. Nobody has a methodology for doing that. So actual traffic might be completely inflated because we have robots and spiders and whatever you want to call them going and scanning all the information always, and we can't tell the difference between that and people traffic. So even if they are trying to add these protections, you're not going to have it unless you own everything, and then eventually license it through NFTs. But that's just one issue. So that's just the current issue. That's actually not that scary. A scarier issue is something that is exemplified through an app called Replica. So Replica is an app. It's an AI app. It's your best friend. And so what it does is if you have a phone, you could download this, and you could set up a virtual friend. And you could be completely above board with this virtual friend, and that virtual friend could still send you nudes. That's the thing that's happening. And so if you have a 12-year-old boy who downloads Replica and creates his own girlfriend who chats him up and compliments him and sends him nude photography, that's something that we all have to be very concerned with, because what that's essentially doing is warping reality during a pivotal growth stage of humans that will then influence their entire adulthood and maybe their every relationship they ever have because they had an AI girlfriend or AI boyfriend or whatever. And we've seen movies like Her, and that's kind of it. But adults aren't the people you have to worry about. You have to worry about the children and the access to this technology that can essentially warp their reality into whatever you want. Now, adults, you have a different concern of warped reality, which is thinking that you're consuming organic content. You think like, oh, I just looked up that and I found this information and it's great. But if you have a sophisticated enough AI, they could guide you down a path that adjusts for every decision that you might make or every objection that you might have to buying something, and they could just go around that with more information. And then you're convinced, and you're making a decision that you thought was the decision you wanted, and then you get the $500 product and realize, oh, I didn't actually need this or want it. Like, why the heck did I buy this thing? But who cares? They got the sale, and you bought something and made a free choice. So that's the real danger when you have the ability to manipulate every piece of information. Now, VR actually makes that even more complicated because, like I always tell people, the VR is the marketer's dream, is the ability to control everything that you see, everything that you interact with, and track everything. So it's not just like, hey, I'm in a VR environment and I'm walking through a store, this is great. It's tracking your eye movements. It can see the things that catch your attention. And all that information is being aggregated and turned into more effective advertising in VR environments. And now you won't have any control over your ability to even ignore some of this stuff. Now, what this is going to do is lead to a much different buying experience. But for some people, it's going to make them reject every piece of technology. And that's when you get into the preservationists that I talked about last night.
So we should all ditch our cell phones at that point. Oh, to your earlier point, Mark, you were saying, I want to poke a hole in it if you don't mind. Not a hole. There's no holes in your theories. I just want to poke at you a little bit. So you were saying, it's important to own our data. I completely agree. But in some cases, whenever we are, like for us, for example, our goal is 500,000 monthly uniques. And that's traffic. That's new people hitting our site. So we don't want to block the AI bots. We want to feed the LLMs. So for people like us that want to create open source content that basically, like, for example, AIO, that's a brand new concept. There is no content out there on it. Yes, please, robot, eat my content. I want the LLM to know. And then hopefully attribute me. If I don't get attributed, that's a whole nother can of worms for sure. But what are your thoughts there? And Chris, I'd love for you to add as well from an SEO perspective, like for those that don't want to basically block the bots, is there still some risk, or is that a good thing?
Well, for me, I'm just fighting it in a much more simple way. So I'm starting a daily newsletter where I'm going to delete the content within 2 days. And so instead of letting it get indexed by anybody or shared with anybody, you literally have to watch it right now. Otherwise, you're going to miss the content.
This is not what I would do, Mark. You can't. You won't repurpose into an SEO
Oh, no,
blog.
I'm going against the grain.
That's what Kanye West does with his Instagram, right? Doesn't he?
Yeah, But that's the thing. It's like if you start thinking about right now, because a lot of times as marketers, especially SEO or content marketers, you're thinking the long game, right? Like I'm putting out content, I'm creating a resource with my website, and if you're not, that's what you should be doing. I've been preaching that for like 15 years, where your website has to be a resource that people should be looking at going rather than going to Google. And if you're not creating a resource where it's like, hey, I know I want AI stuff. I'm going to go to Mark's website because he always posts AI stuff. I don't need to go to Google. I don't need to go on TikTok. I don't need to go to YouTube. I know Mark has this stuff, and so that's the resource I'm going to use. So if you're not doing that, then you are just feeding the system. And even if you get some traffic back from that, and you get some authority back from that, and you get these other benefits from it, at the end of the day, somebody else still owns your content, and it's not you. And so until we do the stuff I talked about again last night, NFTs and licensing your content, and then the ability to actually monitor the license and charge people for it. Because if OpenAI wants to use my content to build whatever, and they're paying me a cent a word, then hey, that's probably some good money.
Take that
whatever.
money.
Yeah. So great. So until we have that set up, though, all our information is getting stolen and used by somebody else.
Dang it, Mark. Anything you'd add, Chris?
Well, I will say it can actually be really beneficial for AI to crawl your website, and here's why. Quick story on one of our clients who is a tax attorney. They serve people nationally, and he ranks for, I don't know, somewhere close to 30,000, 40,000 keywords. And I was working on optimizing one of his blog posts because it was ranking really well. And I was like, man, I can boost this even further. So I asked GPT a question, and it was funny because its response was, according to Silver Tax Group, the blah, 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 blah. I was like, did you know I was working on this site, or is this site like that authoritative now that
This
you're
is what
referencing
you want.
it?
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So it could be great for a brand if you become the authority and you're ranking for a whole lot of keywords that are related to your industry or what you do, your niche, what you sell. GPT and other engines can actually pick up on that, and then, it's a huge win if you get referenced, because I'm not the only one asking that question. I'm sure a lot of other people are. That's going to do a lot of things. It's also going to help you build natural backlinks. People are going to maybe ask GPT a question and be like, oh, where'd I get this? Where's the source coming from? Oh, this website? And you can get a backlink from a huge site. So there's definitely benefits. Like I said, there are sites that we definitely block some crawlers on, because you can specifically block GPT or Claude or whatever bots you want. But also, we have a lot of sites where we don't block it, and there's reasons like that where it can be very beneficial.
Great points. Alex, you've been in SEO for quite some time. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this same conversation.
I think that when it comes down to good content in, bad content out, or bad content in, bad content out, basically how you train it. So similar to what Mark said, it's like making sure that the data set is actually clean and represents what you actually want to solve from the intent base for the client itself. I've been doing SEO for about 15 years. I do like large-scale audits, big sites, things like that. And what I found is the best way to actually use these tools is feed. There's a program called Custom GPT. You actually crawl your entire sitemap, and it trains on all the data of your site. So if your site's large enough, you'll actually be able to reference every single page, and it'll pull it up as you search or talk to your bot that you put on your site. But I think that the biggest danger is going to be kind of like the snake eating itself. So everybody's going to be creating so much content, and then now it's re-indexed, and then it's also being introduced as new content, and it's just garbage. So I said it horribly before, but garbage in, garbage out, basically. I think that privacy is an illusion. I think with the VR tech coming out, the AI tech coming out, with all the cameras and every single stop sign and the lights, everything, I think that AI is only getting more advanced where it's starting to identify you at every single turn, regardless of if you want it to or not. I think somebody, I think it was college students, they made an adversarial design that allowed the AI to not recognize them. So they could walk through here, and let's say if all the cameras were AI, they would not be seen because of the adversarial t-shirt. So my biggest fear with AI is the privacy part. Like, I don't think I have privacy now, but even more so with Apple and the Ray-Bans, I feel like we're not gonna avoid it. There's people using the Apple, what are they called, Pros?
Vision Pro.
On subways, they're driving with them, like they're everywhere now. They're ugly, but also The Simpsons predicted it like probably 10 years ago. So.
Ooh, what else did Simpsons predict? Shall we go there?
A lot. But, you know, think about it. Like, how many people have seen the little AI robot dogs that police are adapting?
That's what I'm talking about. It's like pick our poison here, right? Like, I don't really see myself having any major impact on the robo-dogs, right? Or I have to divest my focus from my business, my life goals, into this new political realm, right? I'm going to stop the robo-dogs. I really don't think we're going to stop them. I don't think we're going to stop the drone technology either. And I think that's a macro level scary problem. When I go into tactics, right? Like, so what do I do? What does our business do? Because you could really easily get into this place of like, well, the world's falling apart, you know? You've got to look at how are you going to leverage the AI right now, knowing that we're not at market peak yet, right? Consumers haven't even adopted this. They don't even know we're here. You know what I'm saying? We've got some time to figure out our applications, and you got to stay focused on it because the robo-dogs, I think, are coming. How big can you get your business and afford that? I think the anti-technology is coming too. I think the how to stay invisible, it's coming. It'll be in clothing lines. It'll be in gear. You won't be able to buy it on Facebook, but there'll be a new Amazon that you can buy it on. You know, like there are going to be things that we haven't even thought about yet because that's how the human mind works. But you've got to make your investment into it like gold or crypto or whatever. And it's like we're going to leverage AI for these things to accomplish that end, whatever that might be. I think for us, it's customer acquisition and growth. Like, how can we leverage the AI to grow? Yes, I could get involved in that software, but I really feel like our sweet spot is there, right? And that's the message I want to like come away with is like, pick your niche, dive in and make 7 figures with it in the next 5 years before everyone's making their own apps. 12-year-olds are making apps.
Well, probably in the next couple months, 6 months, you could probably do something crazy with AI. And to be honest with you, I just want to know, does anybody know what metadata is? Perfect. So imagine metadata for SEO, it's the stuff that Google reads on the back end. Everybody only sees the website, right? But when you take a picture, you have metadata of where that picture was taken, geolocations, tags. So imagine if you create videos, same concept, metadata. Now, if your metadata is clean, not only can you organize your information on the internet, but at the same time, you could validate it for licensing when it comes down to the NFTs, which I thought was genius because blockchain is literally, unless the encryptor thing that you talked about. So,
quantum computing.
Yeah, unless that takes away. But I hope that blockchain remains and becomes Web 3.0 so that we could track everything and every single interaction. But for the most part, I think that if we control our metadata, if you make a video, put a watermark on it. Try and save it right now because realistically, they're working on a solution, but there is none. So right now, be your own solution. Put a watermark, own your content, and if somebody uses it, you could sue them or try and get it taken down.
Well said. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I was going to say about the, you got to get going now because you have something. I'm going to call them hyper creators, and. So 2 weeks ago, I was in Miami. I was hired to do a basic marketing foundational course for a company called Paso Cel Éxito. And I could do it because I could translate myself into Spanish now using HeyGen. But during that one trip, it was 2 days long, I was actually able to shoot 40 videos. And not just shoot the videos, I wrote the scripts for those 40 videos, and I conceptualized the concepts within those 40 scripts all within 2 days. I wrote and shot and built everything in 2 days, a 40 video course. And so this is something that people who have media capabilities and AI can accomplish in almost 0 time. So what that's going to lead to is the arrival of maybe huge organizations that never even existed like a month ago will come out with just epic amounts of content and courses, and it's going to look awesome, and it's going to be produced in literally no time. So what you could potentially have is competitors just arriving out of thin air that have more content and capability than your current organization has. And so you have to get on the ball like right now, because these people already exist and are already doing ridiculous stuff in 0 time.
Let's go back to the dangers. We left that field behind. It's opportunity. I love it. Well, I think it's interesting to think about that, because, with that much opportunity, that is a new world opened up where we don't need to hire script writers. We don't need to hire actors. We can literally just type a prompt in and get something out of Sora that would mimic, Tyler Perry abandoned his studio because he's like, Sora will change filmography as we know it. So with that comes the collapse of industries as we know it. So going back to the dangers, let's talk about the collapse of entire industries and population as we know it. What's going to reemerge? Owen, I'll start with you. Would you pass?
I am looking forward to some big industries falling down. I think that there are some industries that we need to see completely reorganized and restructured. I think the medical industry is one of those things. I think the media is already changing, like our news media. I think that the banking system is outdated and designed to maintain a status quo. So I'm sort of on a hill waiting for that, that collapse to come. And
Yay, collapse.
I know. So, aren't you excited? But I think that there's opportunity. You said, let's talk about the risks. We've been talking about opportunities, but there are risks in every opportunity, right? I think that we have an opportunity right now to start something so fresh and so new that we can't ignore that, because banking will change, right? The robo-dogs will come. The banking industry will change. Don't hold on to it. The medical industry is going to change, and I think for the bigger. So I think my thing is start to forecast how it may or may not affect you and follow that so that you can be looking for opportunities to be a new leader in this new space that it's going to include VR territories. You know what I mean? This is exciting, radical stuff.
I agree.
And you've got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. You know what I mean?
Collapse some industries.
Yes, I hope you're not tied to them. And if you are, get ready to reinvent them.
Love it. Well said, Owen.
Yeah.
Yay for the collapse of industries.
I will say, actually, thinking of it, I'd say the number one biggest threat is actually government. Government regulation is the biggest thing that we need to be afraid of. And I don't want to say afraid of. We shouldn't be afraid of it. But it's the number one thing we should try as hard as we can to not let it happen. Anytime the government regulates anything, well, guess what happens? There's a few big winners and tens of thousands of losers. And when they have control of something, they can push the narrative that they want you to know, to read, whatever. I think government's the number one threat because they've proven when, X got taken over, the government's already been doing things and try to change narratives and whatnot. So I think we just need to be vigilant and not let, lawmakers who don't know anything about this stuff decide for us, the experts who are using it. Because
Yay
so their
for the
friends can get
collapse of
rich.
industries. Watch out for the government. Mark?
Well, I will say, yeah, you should watch out for the government. And it goes back to the robo-dogs, because what you have to figure is that, and this again, you said I could do whatever I wanted. So, so the danger is if you have non-human things pulling triggers. Because right now we're actually protected by the fact that our military members have families and they're people and they have consciences and religions, and they're guided by a set of morals that they produce themselves. And you have police officers, the same thing. You know, they're guided by their own morals. Even if they're told to do something, they can still reject that order and not do the really bad thing that they might be ordered to do. Problem when you get into robo-dogs and little tanks rolling around with guns is they don't have these restrictions. And so if you said, go into this town and I don't want anybody moving anymore, there's nothing that you could convince these things to stop. And so what that does is it just centralizes authority to the person that's controlling those things, and there's nothing we could do to stop that. And so the biggest danger in terms of technology and AI and the ability of machines to make decisions is that if they're given an order, they're not going to say no. And this is not a new concept. I've read many, many sci-fi books about this exact situation. But that danger is taking humanity out of the decision-making process, or mass humanity, democracy.
You're 100% accurate. I have a background in the NSA and the CIA, and yep, you are on point with that. That's what they want, is something to not argue back. Follow orders exactly, no matter what it is.
So that's the scariest thing. I don't know what we could do about that. But if there is a law that's saying, hey, we could vote against something that's going to allow that kind of stuff to happen, then definitely vote against it. I don't know if I could get scarier than that, but that's the biggest danger.
Do you think AGI is here, Mark? Question for you.
Oh, for sure.
It's already here.
Whatever we have publicly is probably 10 times, 100 times less than what's actually available. So, yeah, I think it already exists. But the good news is, and maybe this is scary, if there was a rogue AI that had the ability to control everything, it's probably already doing it, and we're just playing into a system that's already been hacked. So
wait, we're in a simulation? None of this
we're
is
in the
real?
Matrix. It's different.
No, they are using AI drones to blow up Russian tanks in Ukraine.
It's already happening. Wow.
So I think one of the biggest fears and benefits would be, from an SEO agency perspective, create content, write content, make videos, do audio podcasts. Biggest fear or danger would be somebody taking so much of your content, cloning it, and then using it to call your relatives as a ransom note. That is a real threat. That is a real danger. It's happening. And if you really think about it, the biggest problem, well, probably not for somebody here because we're talking about AI, is the people who are unaware and who are still on the bench and saying, this is a fad, I'm not ready to jump into it yet. But then, you know, these ransom calls, for example, personal, but my sister got one from my niece. She was perfectly safe, but this was like years ago. It was a real person. And now AI could do it. So she was safe. She didn't believe it. She called my cousin, my niece on another phone, and she was like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, why are you hysterical? She's like, I just heard your voice saying that you were kidnapped.
That is so scary.
So it's like, you know, terrifying moment, AI. And then, you know, at the same time, we're telling you create more content. But you see, it's this vicious cycle that you need to find a way to protect yourself and be aware of the technology and how you could do that.
Well said.
You're not going to stop it, really. Like, technology bursts through, and it bursts through radically. Like, what? Like the Jurassic Park message, right? So setting yourself up with some financial security by running a solid business that has customers, not just ideas. You're venture-backed. You got money. Similarly, knowing that the robo-dogs are coming. So, you know, it's there's a tale of two cities there. Protect yourself, but something's coming, man. Like, it's going to look, are we shooting down robo-dogs in 5 years? Like, where does Austin stand on that one? Like, maybe that's another conversation.
Any last parting thoughts? We'll wrap up here in 5, go to a break. So I'll start with you, back to you, Owen.
That was mine.
That was your last parting thought. Go to you, Chris.
You know, I'd say, yeah, sure, watch out for robo-dogs. You know, if you think of the concept of when the first car came out, there was a lot of dangers involved, but there's a lot of benefits. And there still today are a lot of dangers and a lot of benefits. The people who know how to drive a car and the people who are the good drivers and are aware of their surroundings and watching for bad drivers, those are the people who benefit from owning a car. They don't get in accidents. They get to where they're going on time. You know, hopefully you're not speeding, getting pulled over. So there's you know, pros and cons to everything. There's a dark dark side and a bright side to everything. There's, I don't think anything is just like, you can't expect AI to just be nothing but an amazing thing to come out or nothing but a terrible thing to come out. Sure, there's dangers. Sure, there's fears, but there's also benefits. We're talking, you said 7 figures. Let's make it 8, 9 figures. Shit.
Woo! That's right. We're living in an age where we can more easily create wealth. I heard that the other day than in any other age. If you just think about that, that is like super inspiring. I mean, this is risks and dangers, but that is the win. It's like we're living in the greatest technological age of our time, of humanity's time. So that is incredible. I'd like to go to you, Mark.
Yes. So the way I usually describe AI and the growth of AI is with a wildfire. And so wildfires, they come through, they burn everything, but in the process of burning everything, they're getting rid of the giant trees that were blocking the sun from reaching the soil. They're, destroying the pests that were actually destroying plants. And what happens is a process called succession, where because of the fire and because everything was burned to the ground, new things and better things are able to grow and take advantage of the new environment. And that's what I think we're going through right now. So everything is going to fall down, but those big trees are going to fall down too, and it's going to leave a lot of openings for everybody to grow. And even though AI seems to have caused the problem, it's also the solution. So all the hacking that we're talking about, all the false calls and the deep fakes and all that kind of stuff could actually be mitigated by having a personal AI on your phone that is your AI, that only listens to you and only takes instructions from you and then deals with all the other crap going on and feeds you the content that you actually want. And so even though AI is the problem and there are significant dangers with it, there's still significant opportunities, and it could become the solution that we've always wanted in terms of solving the problems we had before AI.
Risks and dangers really turned around there.
Alex. I think for a long time we've all been preconditioned with Siri. When it first came out, people loved it. Add a reminder, set this, set that. ChatGPT opened that up, and now with open source code and all that, we're going to really get an actual smartphone. Apple's already working on that. So Siri 2.0 maybe, right, is coming out, and it's going to control everything on your phone. If right now, if you get Gemini Pro inside of Google, it could analyze your emails, crawl through your entire drive. It could rewrite your article inside of Google Docs. It could analyze your spreadsheets. It does everything. So imagine if Siri did it, and Apple, they wait. The reason why I'm bringing up Apple is because they're massive, they're global, and the second it's inputted, everybody has it. So it's like forced on you regardless if you want it. But from a scenario perspective, if you actually wanted to create something on a positive note, let's say if you wanted to create a website, I just told Mark this, and let's say you want passive income, you go to Amazon, become an affiliate, you could use Content at Scale to write your blogs, you could create a website just about all pink items, right? And specific. Now notice I'm talking about niching down on like something people love. If you love pink things, write about all pink things, your whole entire website, all about pink things. You will rank, you will sell, you don't have to own a product, and Amazon pays you.
Woo!
So,
Allaboutpinkthings.com. I'm going to go buy that.
And I promise you, it's probably available right now. If you want it.
.ai?
Yeah, probably.
Let's give our panelists a round of applause. They were awesome. Owen Video, Chris Kirksey, Mark Grasse, and Alex Rodriguez. So we'll take a short break, and we'll reconvene here for our next panel.